A good book is an event in my life. Your career will be a painful one. I divine something in you which offends the vulgar. If you think of paying court to those in power, your eternal ruin is assured. One can acquire everything in solitude except character. Beauty is nothing other than the promise of happiness. What is really beautiful must always be true. If you don't love me, it does not matter, anyway I can love for both of us. There are as many styles of beauty as there are visions of happiness. The pleasures of love are always in proportion to our fears. The first qualification for a historian is to have no ability to invent. A novel is a mirror walking along a main road. Love is like a fever which comes and goes quite independently of the will. They can only touch the heart by bruising it. Our true passions are selfish. I think being condemned to death is the only real distinction. It is the only thing which cannot be bought. There's one convenience about absolute power, that it sanctifies everything in the eyes of the people. Politics in a literary work is like a gunshot in the middle of a concert, something vulgar, and however, something which is impossible to ignore. True love makes the thought of death frequent, easy, without terrors. It merely becomes the standard of comparison, the price one would pay for many things. All religions are founded on the fear of the many and the cleverness of the few. The boredom of married life inevitable destroys love, when love has preceded marriage. Old age is nothing but the absence of madness, the loss of illusion and passion. Pleasure is often spoiled by describing it. I cannot provide the reality of events, I can only convey their shadow. A very small degree of hope is sufficient to cause the birth of love. Reality seems flat and dirty. It is clear that you do not like to look at her, but you are not allowed to judge her. The only way of touching a heart is to wound it. But, if I sample this pleasure so prudently and circumspectly, it will no longer be a pleasure. Love born in the brain is more spirited, doubtless, than true love, but it has only flashes of enthusiasm. It knows itself too well, it criticizes itself incessantly. So far from banishing thought, it is itself reared only upon a structure of thought. Misery destroys judgment. The idea which tyrants find most useful is the idea of God. To write a book is to risk being shot at in public. It seems that my destiny is to die dreaming. After moral poisoning, one requires physical remedies and a bottle of champagne. The more one pleases generally, the less one pleases profoundly. Faith, I am no such fool. Everyone for himself in this desert of selfishness which is called life. What is the use of a love that makes one yawn? one might as well take to religion. It is the violence of your passions that alarms me. Nothing is so odious to the mediocre as mental superiority. There lies the source of hatred in the world of today. The first instrument of a people's genius is its language. The shepherd always tries to persuade the sheep that their interests and his own are the same. I'm profoundly convinced that the only antidote that can make the reader forget the perpetual lies the author will be writing is a perfect sincerity. The great drawback of being witty is that you have to keep your eyes fixed on the semi-idiots around you and absorb their worthless sensations. To find happiness, you need to get off the beaten track. I love her beauty, but I fear her mind. The suspicion that a rival is loved is painful enough already, but to have the love that he inspires in her confessed to one in detail by the woman whom one adores is without doubt the acme of suffering. It is something like love at first sight. An instant reveals to you what your heart had needed for a long time without recognizing it. The highest rational achievement of the finest intellects consists in grasping that certain matters lie beyond their powers to grasp. Indeed, man has two different beings inside him. What devil thought of that malicious touch? The lover thinks oftener of reaching his mistress than the husband thinks of guarding his wife. The prisoner thinks more often of escape than the jailer thinks of locking the doors. Therefore, in spite of every obstacle, the lover and the prisoner are certain to succeed. A man may meet a woman and be shocked by her ugliness. Soon, if she is natural and unaffected, her expression makes him overlook the faults of her features. He begins to find her charming. It enters his head that she might be loved, and a week later he is living in hope. The following week he has been snubbed into despair, and the week afterwards he has gone mad. Each man for himself in that desert of egoism which is called life.